Hi everyone, this is OCD Live. I'm Greymond, and today I want to talk to you about how OCD can really cause harm. So I think this is very important because we need to understand the reality of OCD in all of its ways, basically. Because yes, the thoughts are false, but there is real harm that can happen because of OCD. And it's important to realize that for everybody involved, for the people who have OCD, for the people around the people who have OCD. So today I wanted to kind of go over that. So the biggest problem with OCD is that when you are worried about your thoughts and you are worried about your situations, at the same time, you are not fully present in the reality. Um, it's just a second here. I have a question here. How to overcome OCD thoughts related to always please people and be in their good books? Um, Not really. No, no. For example, this I'm reading the question. For example, initially I used to get a lot of anxiety if I see someone passing by, and if I do not say hello and greet them with a smile, then it would hit me so hard that I would spend hours, days thinking that that what they would be thinking about me. It has reduced a lot by doing ERP, but how can I remove them completely? Can you talk about it? Thank you. Okay, so yeah, so basically this is just another form of OCD thought. So the more you practice ERP, which is exposure and response prevention, doing the exposure, preventing the response of fear, the response of anxiety, the more you do this, the less you will feel about this, basically. So it's kind of like desensitization, but it's in a good way because you are desensitizing yourself to something that you shouldn't be sensitized to in the first place, right? So just keep going because that's what's happening right now. You're already feeling the decrease of it. You just have to keep going until it's fully eliminated. Don't do anything different. Just keep doing what you're doing because I think that's working for you. So just after the situation happens, really try to cut down the time you spend thinking about it. So when your mind goes to that thought, oh, what are they thinking of me? What's happening? Um, Try to move it away from the situation. So say, okay, I'm choosing not to think about it. This is my usual thing. I'm going to choose to think about something else and refocus and keep refocusing over and over and over again until you fully get away from it. But yeah, but just generally just keep doing ERP and really work on self-reassurance elimination because I think that's why it's still kind of sticking around is because when these situations happen, you take a lot of self-reassurance. And that's what's causing your mind to think, oh, it must be relevant because he's reassuring himself, he's going over the situation, and that's what makes the thought stick. So it has to be like we talked about, flowing into one ear and flowing out the other. Okay, so what I was talking about too, how OCD can cause harm. So when you are thinking about your OCD stuff, you are not really. And by the way, guys, if you would like to ask me any more questions as I'm talking, please put it in the chat, and I will reply as soon as I get it. So, um, you're not really present in your reality fully. So if you have family members that you're living with, if you have a boyfriend or a husband or a wife, um, if you have children, you are not present for them and when you're around them. So, and that starts to cause problems and that starts to cause deterioration of those relationships. Um, and I see that a lot, where people can't handle dealing with OCD, like the partners can't handle dealing with OCD. Actually, a lot of the times in the sessions, I will talk with the person, but also with the person and their partner at the same time, because I think it's important for everybody to be on the same page in the recovery, and also for everybody to understand that you can recover from this. So, so that's kind of the thing of it. You have to understand that your OCD is having impact on everything else. Same thing at work, that if you have a job and you're going to a job every day, if you're not mentally there, present, and if you're worrying about OCD, that can cause problems at work. So because everybody expects you to be kind of acting and in being your whole self 100%, right? And when you're only, say, 30% there and 70% in the OCD land, people are going to start to notice, and over time people might start to dislike that about you, because they have to do more because you are doing less. And I'm not trying to put pressure on you or anything like that, but it's just it's the reality of the situation. Like, I've been doing this for a long time, helping people with OCD, and as you guys know, I do this a lot. So I see a lot of relationship breakdowns because of it, and I do see a lot of not necessarily just like partners, but all kinds of relationships breaking down, because it's a difficult thing, when you're dealing with a thought, especially if the thought is, like about the relationship. But even if it's not, it's very, very difficult um, to deal with your real thoughts and then or real situations and OCD at the same time. And then the same thing for other people. Also, if you're pulling other people in to do compulsions with you, so for example, you're asking your family members or your partner to do something for you, or not do something, that will aggravate OCD, all of this has problems, or all of this leads to problems. So in order to avoid this, my suggestion, and again, you guys do what you want to do, but I think it's an important topic to bring up, and I'll tell you based on my experience that nothing ever really comes good from diving into OCD with family members or partners or anybody else. So you can tell them that you have OCD. I'm sure they already know, but going deep into your thoughts, trying to seek reassurance, trying to make yourself feel better, all of this will really make it worse, because the bottom line is, no matter how much you want them to understand, they don't understand because they have never been through it. Just like if, say, for example, you have, say you have cleaning OCD, you will not understand religious OCD. You can kind of see how it would be, but not really understand it, and you wouldn't really understand the fear that person feels. You know? Just a second. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, just had the phone ring. um, so basically, I would say that as little as you could share, that's how much you should share about OCD. you know don't go into too much detail about it, because there's no point. And the other thing about OCD, that it can switch on you. So just because you're having this particular OCD right now doesn't mean that later on you will still have that same type of OCD. It could switch to something else, and most likely it will, especially if you're taking a long time getting over it, because as your life changes, and kind of evolves, continues, your OCD thoughts will do the same thing. Because, say for example, I get a lot of people worried about certain things at their work, okay? So then they switch their jobs. They're not worried about those things, but they have a new job that they're worried about different things with, right? So that's what I'm saying. There's no point. And if you tell your friends, they will always think of you as somebody who as somebody who has OCD basically, and somebody who's like, oh, a little bit different, and this is just a social thing, there's nothing you could really do about it. So all you can do is just not pay attention to the thoughts, get over it yourself, and like I said, just don't talk too much to other people about it as well, um, and try your best to be present in the situation. The more present you are in the situation, the better your relationships will be. And what you're doing really is you're showing OCD that the thoughts don't matter. So you're going about your day as you normally would, you're performing your tasks. All the people will see it. I'm telling you, when people come in to see me, or when we start, usually I do my sessions on Skype, so when we start talking on Skype, they don't believe that they're going to get better. Their family doesn't believe they're going to get better. And I always tell them, I'm like, okay, you'll remember this. You will feel better, right? And, we talk for a few weeks, for a month, and going on with the ERP and the CBT and the different things and different techniques. And if they're doing that, they start to tell me, I'm feeling better. My parents see it, my friends see it, my partner sees it. It's really working, and they're shocked and surprised, but you just need to keep going with the recovery. That's all, you know? So that's the whole thing of it, it's just keeping going with the recovery, not telling other people, not dwelling on the situation, because I'm telling you, as somebody who got over OCD, this thing is just a blimp in time, This is not your permanent situation. And I know it feels to you right now like, well, what if it is permanent, or, I feel like it's permanent, because I'm telling you, I felt like it was permanent for me too. When I had OCD, I never thought I would recover, you know, and much less thought that I would help other people recover after. So it wasn't something that, it wasn't even something that would ever cross my mind at that point, but because I never thought I'd get over it, you know? It was really, really, trust me when I say it was really severe. Some people like to think that, well, Ali got over it because it was just mild for her. Yeah, no, it wasn't mild. When you can't leave your house, it's not mild. It's a serious, serious problem. So trust me when I say it was serious for me. And because it was so serious, I really understand how you're feeling. And at the same time, I'm telling you, it's like you have to keep working at it, and you have to view it as work. It's going to give you anxiety when you do ERP. It's not going to be fun, but you have to do it, you know? And if you need my help, I am here. If you choose to do it on your own, do it on your own. But you have to do the ERP. So every day, facing what you are afraid of and not falling into reassurance, not falling into avoidance. Because the more you fall into those things, the worse you're going to feel. And the smaller your world becomes, and you're really not gaining anything either, because you're just going to find a different type of OCD. So say, for example, if just like me, I got to a point where I was afraid to go outside, and then I found some stuff about I was afraid of in the house. So what does that do? You're still getting OCD, but now you've kind of cut yourself off from this, and this, and you're in this tiny corner, and even in the tiny corner, you're getting OCD. So you can't really run away from it. And that's why, that's basically how I recovered, is I understood that there was no way out of it other than to face it. Because when you paint yourself into a corner, basically, there's nothing else, there's nowhere else to run. In my case, there was no other doctors to turn to, other than either do the recovery programs, or in some way, kind of, I didn't really find that their program was structured exactly how it should have been. But doing basic CBT and stuff like that, or be on medication for the rest of your life, And even the medication, you'd have to be on an extremely high dose to even feel somewhat normal. So that's the thing, is like, there's no choice. The only choice is to get better. and you don't need other people, or you need other people to support you. It would be good if you had somebody who knows about OCD, such as like a therapist or something like that. But I wouldn't put it on your family members or your friends to do that, because that's a really heavy load, and I mean, as much as they love you and they care about you, you're asking them to be a therapist, and they're not equipped for that. So you will be in for a disappointment where it doesn't happen, and then they'll be in for a disappointment when they really find out what kind of thoughts you're having, because they don't understand OCD. That they think that, okay, well, if this person is having these thoughts, they could have the same thoughts, but they don't even remember them because they're not focusing on them. But what scares them sometimes, I find, is when, why are you so focused on these thoughts? That's what they don't understand. So you get a thought, so who cares? you know but if you're focused on them and you're getting into them, that's kind of what starts to worry them, that you're having the same thing all the time, because again, they don't understand the mechanism of OCD, that the more you think about the more you pay attention to these thoughts, the more of these thoughts are going to come in. So it really has nothing to do with you. But again, they're not equipped, they don't understand, and sometimes they can take it the wrong way. Because this is another problem with reassurance, that every time you go to somebody for reassurance, you're not going to a computer that's all knowing, all seeing, kind of all understanding, and is going to give you the right answer. You're going to a real person who can be having a good day, could be having a bad day, and if you're asking them, for example, to remember an event, or to um, ask them what they would do in this situation, or is this important, they can really tell you anything. And you are at their mercy in that way, because if they tell you the wrong thing, or look at you the wrong way as they're saying it, or they'll sigh, or they'll make an expression with their hands or their face or something like that, um, you're gonna really kind of freak out basically because of it. Or you could potentially, because you're gonna think, oh my god, well, if they did this, then that means something, 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 right? So that's why, don't put yourself in this situation. And they see that you are not able to cope, and it's kind of, especially for partners, it's really difficult for them to handle it, no matter if, if you're the kind of the more stronger one in the relationship, and in an emotional sense, or if you're the weaker one in the relationship, with, besides the OCD thing. Either way, it's more difficult for them to handle it, because they see that you are helpless, and they see that they can't rely on you. And that's not really a good thing to show, because you're not helpless. You're just helpless when it comes to this thought, and just in this moment. Once this moment passes, you will feel better. But you don't want to project that you are not feeling well, because they think, oh my god, my partner is not doing so well, I can't rely on them, this is all on me now, this is so difficult. Or, in case of like a parent and child, right? The parents are like, oh my god, my child is not doing well, what can I do? They start to, with parents, I see a lot that they start to just kind of jump to anything in order to help their child. So sometimes they do more harm than good, because they'll just kind of do everything rather than doing something that works, because they don't know what works. So in their mind, it's better to try something than to try nothing. And I do agree with that, but sometimes it's more harmful, and especially in the way of reassurance, because usually when I start to talk to people, they've just been doing a lot of reassurance, and that's why they got to the situation where they are. So we start to slowly undo that reassurance, and well, not slowly in some cases. And that just really depends on you, like how fast you want to go in your recovery, because you don't have to eliminate it all in one day, but the faster you eliminate it, the faster you will recover. So by keeping reassurance and avoidance and compulsions going, it's like you're prolonging your own suffering. So, but sometimes the person is just not ready. So it really kind of depends, you have to know when it's time for you to face more ERP, like do more exposures, because you have to do it when you're ready. Because sometimes they see too that people will do too many exposures, and then they're doing good, 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 and then something happens, they're surprised by it, or something really kind of out of the left field, they're not expecting it, and they start to kind of fall down with it, and it starts to be too much for them. And so you don't want to get overwhelmed like that. And I always warn people that, try not to don't go slow, because, going slow, it's useless, especially like when they're talking to me, because, I don't want people to be wasting their money. If they're spending money talking to me, I want them to see results, right? So I don't want them to go slow, because when you go slow, then the recovery lasts longer, which means more money for them. Also, they lose the momentum, because if you're going from one ERP exposure to the next, you gain momentum. But if you do them once a week, then you've lost the momentum, and you gotta get all of your bravery back up to do another exposure. But if you're doing them day after day, then it's like, oh, yesterday I did exposure, today I'm doing another one, and you're riding that wave, So that's a much better way to go, I find. So, but at the same time, not pushing yourself too far. So today kind of was basically a little bit of a mishmash of different topics that I wanted to talk about. Kind of started out with, family members and friends and OCD, and finished on a totally different topic, but this happens on this show. If you guys have any questions, you can write to me privately at info@youhaveocd.com, or you can write to me on the chat window. And if you guys would like me to bring up a question on the show, just let me know and I will bring that up. I would like you to ask me a question that I can bring up on the show, because it really helps other people who are listening to know that they're not alone, and maybe I didn't cover something that is important, and you can ask me that and then I'll cover it, So I'm gonna keep everything private and confidential, so no details of this are gonna get out. So don't think that you'll be exposed or anything like that. I won't say your name, I won't say the details of what you're saying if it's in an email, right? So in the chat everybody can see it here, so it's a little bit different. So yeah, if you guys would like more help, you can visit youhaveocd.com. I have my recovery program on there, as well as some ebooks, some free material as well. So thank you guys for watching once again, and I'll see you tomorrow.